Hi there, my name is Bren Vanderswag. I'm the owner and president of GutterExperts.com and founder of Gutter-Con, which is being held in just 85 days from now in Denver, Colorado. Leading up to GutterCon, I'll be doing a series of live Facebook events where I'll be chatting with a variety of people in the gutter world. Speakers who will be presenting at GutterCon, suppliers, and regular gutter guys just like you and me. We'll be talking about their businesses and how they play a role in today's gutter industry. So I'd like to introduce my guest for today, Frank Hennigan. He's the owner of Connecticut Gutters and a serial entrepreneur with other service-based businesses. Frank is one of the first registrants for GutterCon and a supporter and an active member of some Facebook groups also. How you doing today?
How's it going, Brent?
Good. What's new in Connecticut? Are you in Connecticut? You had a couple trips that you were on?
Yes, I just took a couple trips. I try to do that in the winter time and mend my bones and relax a little bit. It's actually less bones and more brains these days. I gotta let the brain kind of simmer and relax and clear my head. It's funny, sometimes you have a little R&R and a new idea pops up, or you come up with a new angle, right? And so getting away from the mundane day-to-day is important. So we do that. I'm getting up in years. I got the gray whiskers and, I'm not a kid anymore. So I have children. So it's, family needs a little vacation. I did take a couple of trips. I have one more. I'm going to Hawaii for 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
I'm leaving next Friday. And then that's my big hurrah for the winter. And then get back here and start grinding. But we're working here. We're stacking jobs, and business marches on.
Okay, well, good. I thought maybe we just go back in time and talk about how you got into the gutter business. Maybe
Sure.
Start maybe when you came out of school, what you did, and start talking there.
Absolutely, I'd love to. That's actually, it's funny you brought that up. The last trip I took, I was in Costa Rica, and I have a fantastic wife. We give each other a long leash, and we usually always travel together, but she just
let me leash, like you could take that in a few different ways.
not figuratively.
Okay.
Not literally, figuratively. But she wanted to go travel with her friends, and I let her. And so actually I took advantage of GutterCon being moved. So we were supposed to be in Denver, and we pushed the dates, or you pushed the dates, rightfully so. There's a lot going on in the world. And my wife said, take advantage of that weekend, the long weekend, and do something, get closer to the equator.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of writing a business book, and a number of chapters in the beginning are about my background. And so I ran off to Costa Rica, and I spent 4 days there. It was a short trip, but I really got some clarity. And a little tequila, a little R&R, a little sunshine. And my brain got back to the old days, right? The beginnings. And I pondered about it and took notes. And I was like, wow, all this stuff happened. You start building layers and layers of growth. And sometimes you forget the foundation, right? You forget where you started.
Yeah.
So I had a nice cathartic little vacation where I reminisced, and then I put pen to paper. Well, I typed it, but I spit out about 11,000 words. So I got a really good start on this book. It's business minded, but it also is niche-y in the sense that I do talk about, how to run a rain gutter business successfully. So so just on that topic of my start, it's a lot of it. I look back and I kind of giggled to myself because I'm in my 19th year. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had a number of businesses and still hold a number of businesses. And, coming out of college, I did go to college. I had a Bachelor of Arts degree in English literature. So I was reading a ton, writing a lot. It lent very well to a sales career because I'm a great writer and I'm able to build an attractive quote and make it compelling. I think that's probably one of the areas a lot of guys fall short. They just don't embellish a quotation enough, and the customer skips right over you because you haven't told them enough. You haven't made it juicy enough. So out of school, my first real career job was IT recruiting, information technology recruiting. I had a few
Recruiting
friends that
people.
worked for the same company. It was in Connecticut. They had a main office in Hartford, Connecticut, the capital of Connecticut. But Hartford's like almost an hour and a half away from me. I'm on the western end of the state. So this company opened up a satellite office in Stamford, Connecticut, the next town over from me. So my friends were like, hey, they're hiring. Why don't you look into it? And I looked at it as I was a kid. I was 21. I'm like, this is great learning opportunity. I didn't expect much from it. Maybe I made some money. Some of these guys were making, 150,000 a year, landing some big whales, $200,000, $300,000 a year salaried individuals. They were placing them into these Fortune 500 companies. I'm like, I could do this. So, when you look back on your history and what made you and why you are the way you are, that job was very impressionable on me because they gave us a real classical sales training in the sense that, old school stuff, picking up the phone, smiling and dialing. We were making 100 outbound phone calls a day. My manager was tracking all of my activity. He was tracking my telephone. He was tracking my computer. He knew when I was screwing around on the computer and not working. He knew when I was on the phone. Not only did he see he generated reports. So he knew every outbound call I made. He saw if there was duplicity in those numbers. Like, you called that office 3 times, so I'm not counting it. That's one call. And then how long are you on the phone? So they really worked us to learn how to establish a rapport, how to communicate with people, how to be effective in that communication, how to pierce the veil of the corporate veil, get by the gatekeepers. And, a lot of these people I'm calling on are C-level executives. I have to get around the secretary. How do I do that? How do I impress on those people to take my call and pass it over to the boss, the decision maker, the guy I need to talk to? So that was great. I did close I landed a number of people into jobs. I made some money there, but it was a lot of work and it was a lot of training. And then 9/11 hit. Okay. So I was in this job when 9/11 hit. I don't know how many of you guys know Connecticut, but we're right next to New York City. Right. We're basically a suburb of Manhattan in another state. There's a state line there, but from the beach in my town, we're right on the Long Island Sound. It was a crystal clear, beautiful day, 9/11.
I remember.
And outside of our office building, I have direct line of sight with Manhattan, direct. On a cloudy day, you can't see it, but on a clear day, you could see all the towers, all the buildings. And we all rushed outside innately, and we're standing along the water, and smoke and flames, and it was ominous. So that was it for recruiting. A lot of businesses went under. A lot of businesses, there was huge layoffs after 9/11, if you recall. And so there was just basically an employment freeze. They weren't a hiring freeze. People weren't bringing in, they didn't know what the state of the world was, right? Yep. So that job kind of just froze up. Nobody was buying what I was selling. So I needed to make a move, and I moved into IT sales. So I went to work for a small boutique firm in Norwalk, Connecticut. And it was this crazy Romanian guy, hilarious, but off his rocker, this guy. Him and his wife ran this small little boutique firm, and I was their first outside sales guy. And I did very, very well. And I brought in I brought in Fortune 500. I brought in little small mom and pop shops that needed either network services or custom web-based development. I could talk the talk from the recruiting, so it was an easy transition for me. Right. And I was making 6 figures. I was 23, 24, wearing a suit to work, driving a nice BMW. I thought I was the man. I was 24 and a lot of ching in my pocket. Life was good. And then I got hired I got wooed away from this Romanian by another crazy lunatic. This guy in Westchester, very, very bright guy. Also was running this boutique IT firm, but the first guy could not keep up with what I could sell. So I was bringing in all these opportunities. He didn't have the technology. He didn't understand it himself enough to bring it to his programmers and get it done. So I outgrew the guy pretty quick. This other guy was my age, And again, bright, but didn't matter what I brought in, he could deliver it. But he was like an evil scientist, this guy. In the end, I worked for him for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And what gave me the idea to get into the rain gutter business is I was living with a girlfriend at the time. One of her best friends was married. So her friend's husband and I were lifting weights together at night. We get together 4 or 5 nights a week. You know, you're lifting weights with somebody, you're shooting the breeze, you're talking, you're sharing current events and, you know, state of the union, right? Hey, this is what I'm up to. This is what I'm trying to do. So it dawned on me that it was sort of serendipitous. I had my girlfriend's parents needed rain gutters on their home. So they dumped the task on my desk and said, hey, we need gutters. We have 3 quotes. Can you vet these quotes and determine who's the right guy for the job?
Right.
So I interviewed and made phone calls and talked to these guys. And I had a construction background as a kid in high school. My uncle was a big high-end builder. He was flipping $1 million homes in Connecticut. This is like when things were really hot and heavy in the real estate market. And so I did a little bit of everything for him. I was sort of jack of all trades, you know, coffee runner first. And then I learned how to use a shovel. You know, it was climb the ladder, but I had a confidence with hand tools. I had a confidence with general construction. And so I hired these rain gutter guys for my girlfriend's parents, and I watched them work, and they were in and out in like 2 hours. It wasn't a big house, but you know, the job was done very, very fast. And I looked at the numbers. I know what they paid because I vetted the sale. And I'm like, let's take this a step further. What are these materials? You know, what do they cost? What's the cost of goods sold on this job? Labor's one thing, but all these parts and pieces, I see them using these end caps and the running off gutter. What's that coil in the machine cost? Like I had a thirst for more. So at the same time, my weightlifting buddy needed gutters on his home, and he hired somebody, and he had the same experience. They were in and out. It seemed like easy money. So together we started to look into, hey, well, is this a viable idea? Like, can we get into the rain gutter business? And then we said, let's do it together. You know, hey, you know what? Let's take a leap. Let's do it together. We'll be 50-50 partners. We'll leave what we're doing now and we'll go to work together and, you know, figure it out. You know, we were young and full of testosterone and adrenaline. And I'm like, this is great. So now I had to go tell my boss I was leaving. And I had to tell my girlfriend I was leaving. And I'm making like 110, 115,000. I'm 24, 25 years old. And my boss lost his mind. Because I was bringing in sales, and now he needs a new sales guy. Now he's got to start from scratch. So he's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting into contracting. I'm not going to compete. I know we had a non-compete. I'm leaving this world. I'm getting into contracting. Oh, why would you do that? And he tried to talk me out of it. And then he made me a deal. Don't leave right away. Let's transition. Why don't you, I'll give you half salary and you could keep all your commission. So anything you bring in, you keep your commission. I'll give you half your base salary. Let's transition. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? It's probably healthy for me as well. Let's transition because I need to build a book of business. I'm an unknown. I don't have a name. In the meantime, we go to the Secretary of State, and Connecticut Gutter LLC was available. And I'm like, well, I get back to serendipity. I'm like, timing is good. This sounds good. This is viable. We could get the boldest, strongest name in the state, right? It sounds like we've been around for 20 years. So this is good. Then I looked at domain names, and ctgutter.com was also available. And I'm like, how is this even possible? Again, 19 years ago, the internet was new, but not that new. And, you know, domain names were starting to get snatched up. I'm like, okay, look, this is all too good to be true. Then we looked at the pricing on the materials. We put it together. We became Connecticut Gutter LLC, 50-50 partners. And I took the deal with my boss and I started part-time in it. In the meantime, I bring in a huge deal, $300,000 custom software build for a stone company. They're a supplier, big outfit in Connecticut. I won't say the name, but you could almost you could put the name together based on my business name. This is a big entity in the state. And I sell the deal. It took me a couple months to land it. I'm dealing with the owners. It's a family run business. I'm dealing with their general managers. We closed the deal. They start paying us. They're writing checks for $120,000 at a clip. Time to pay the piper, time to pay the sales guy. So this was my exit, right? This guy owed me, my boss, the last guy I worked for, my last employer, he owed me about $35,000 in commission. I was like, this is great. I got this big chunk of money coming in. I have a little pillow, right? I'm going to slide in, start this new business. Life is good. Everything's comfy. Well, this guy didn't pay me. This guy screwed me for 35 grand.
Wow.
I'll tell you, I went through every emotion, every color in the rainbow across my face over months. I wanted to, I try to be a gentleman. But you're probably the only person I've ever wanted, I wanted to murder this guy.
You're pretty close to Boston. Couldn't you find someone around there that could handle the deal for you?
He's in Westchester. He's just outside of New York City. It turns out this guy burns everybody. So he had programmers that were subcontractors for his operation. And within weeks of me leaving, I found there was 2 other guys that were up in arms. In fact, one guy was such a savvy programmer. If you Googled my old boss's name, it was like this smash website that would come up that this guy owned and ran, and he just crushed him and just laid the facts out, and just, it was a bad look for my old boss and his business. So I tried to legally pursue, and this is stuff I get into in my book too, is outside of that particular job, just the legal pursuit. Now, I brought many a homeowner to small claims court. It's not even worth it. It's the worst time of your life. It never goes your way. It costs you a mint. You basically, even if you win, you lose, because everything you just won goes to the lawyer. But it's a good lesson in understanding. Well, actually, the idea of the book is, let's skip a bunch of lessons that you don't have to learn on your own. Take my word for it, and maybe I can give you some shortcuts in life and in business. Yeah. And I've won, small claims, dead nuts. I win. It doesn't even matter. Again, you win, you lose. So I try to get my money. I'm out on the balls of my ass. In the meantime, my girlfriend at the time is not excited about me becoming a gutter guy. It becomes the entire basis of our relationship is, I don't understand. You're going to be this gutter guy. And it was like she had this really derogatory tone in her voice about it. And it was again and again, you're going to be a gutter guy. I said, no, honey, I'm going to be a businessman. No, you're going to be a gutter guy. It was dirty in her mind.
Were you actually, in the beginning, you and your partner installing the gutters?
Oh yeah, for years.
Okay.
For years. Yeah, for years. But she was a pharmaceutical sales rep. She went to work in a nice dress every day. She was making good money. She did not come from money. So it was important to her to overachieve and to excel. And she didn't want her boyfriend to be coming home in rags with, geocell caulk spots all over the place and cut hands and, dirt in his boots. That was not her program. So c'est la vie. I packed my things and said, goodbye, this is over, because the business meant more to me. And so that was my start. I actually spent 2 months on my buddy's couch because I was so headstrong and so set on setting out into the gutter world and making Connecticut gutter a success. And it didn't matter, hell or high water, I was going to make it happen. I was going to make it work. Rob me for 35 grand. Okay. I'll let that roll off my back. I'll sleep on my buddy's couch. I studied HTML at night when I wasn't installing. I literally had the HTML book for dummies. I coded our first website. I'm not a programmer. I'm a sales guy. So, I'm building websites, but I built this website. 2 months after that site went live, the state of University of Connecticut, UConn, for those that know UConn Huskies, go Huskies, that's my alma mater. They called us and had a ton of copper work. And I had $40,000 copper project, which at the time for me was big money. So, 19 years ago, the business landscape was different. You get a little rudimentary HTML website, people are calling you, and nobody else has a website.
No,
Now,
back then, yeah, you'd be lucky to be a gutter guy, like a small gutter guy, and have a website, I would say.
totally. So everybody and their brother has a website now. People have personal websites, right? I mean, it's like, forget about it. So that was my start. It was tumultuous. It was stressful. It really tested my endurance and my stick-with-itness. Those are some personal characteristics I think I've always had, through athletics, and I played college sports, D1A, and I definitely was built for the tension and the stress of trying to get this business off the ground. And I took it on the chin and I made it happen. So I started with a partner. Somebody asked on Facebook recently, how'd you get your start? Well, we went and sought out a mentor, or attempted to, and there's a local supplier, third generation business, that they do well, but we don't buy their products anymore. It's just, there's better product out there. But I went out and talked to them. I bought my first machine from them because I was going to spend the money on the machine. This guy was willing to meet with us on a Saturday and spend a bunch of hours with my partner and I, and take all of our questions and be available on the phone. He's a great guy. I don't do business with him anymore. It's been a long time, but great guy. I can't say anything bad about him. And he kind of inspired us to keep it moving. It's how his father made his little empire, and how they got their supply business together. And they also have their own service business. They do roofing and siding and rain gutters, but they sell rain gutter parts and pieces. So, we were inspired by them. They were consummate professionals, two brothers running that business. And I'm like, okay, I see, I could see where this could go. This has legs. I see the natural progression for the business-minded person. Maybe we will be like him someday. But to be honest, everything learned on this job, everything learned about rain gutters was trial and error.
Yeah.
There was no class for me. I didn't have a mentor. I wasn't in the trades. There's a metal union, or there was locally back in the day. I didn't have any of that. I learned by screwing it up, by making mistakes on homes and doing it again, and just wanting to be right, wanting to learn how to do it right, how to fix it, how to make it better. And my partner and I taught ourselves, and within the first year and a half, we knew everything. Then we started learning how to solder copper. I did bring in CDA, Copper Development Association. I don't know what they're up to these days, but you pay them. It's a national program. I think the government, no, it might be private, but it's almost like a governmental program. It has that feel to it. And they sent somebody up from Virginia, and he spent 4 days with me and my guys. At that point, we had employees, and we learned how to solder. We learned how to bend copper panels, and how to shrink and stretch handmade standing seam panels, and how to do barrel roofs, and how to do roof valleys. And, we touched on a little bit of everything. That was very informative. And then we took that into the field on the jobs I was selling, and applied it. And so, just to kind of jump ahead maybe 10 years, my partner, for those guys out there that are thinking about getting into a partnership, and he might, he's around, he might watch this video. I don't know if he tunes into gutter stuff. Great guy. I love him. However, we just, different motors, different perspectives, different pair of glasses. We both saw the world with different times in our lives. I was single, and I was high energy, high motor, had all the time in the world because I was single. And he was married, and he had young kids, and he was looking, I later learned, he was leveraging business ownership to find more time for himself and for his family. And so be it. I respect that. I value that. That's one of the bigger perks for entrepreneurs, right? If you get your work done, you could slide out, or you could cut out, or go to a doctor's appointment, or go to your kids' sporting events. It's a huge perk to self-employment. But he was 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm out there. I worked 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. I did that for probably 15 years. Okay. I'm still trying to wean off of that. I'm such a sales addict that if I have the sales volume on my desk, I'm chewing at it. I'm plugging in. Tell the wife, all right, I'll help you get the kids to bed. I'm going back to my desk because you got to strike when the iron's hot. And it's just hardwired into me. And if I have sales opportunities, I'm attacking them until they're cleared off my desk. And then I need to fill my coffers again. So he was at home at 2 p.m. I heard kids in the background, and I'm in the field. I'm like, why do I hear your daughters in the background, brother? What's going on here? And it just, at the end of the day, it came to a point where we were probably doing 450,000. Actually, I know this like the back of my hand. 400. This is an interesting one too. This stat: 450,000 a year at that point, with two of us as owners. And I said, look, there's not enough money here. There's just not enough money for the two of us. Only one guy could live well here. This is not working. So as a sales guy I sort of put it on him. I said, make me an offer. Why don't you buy me out? I wanted to see what his offer was first.
Yeah.
And he pushed and kicked, and I basically was carrying him. I was doing all the sales. So now he had to face the reality that his life was about to change. And he didn't know how it was going to change, for the better, for worse. He doesn't, I didn't know either. Right. But I only knew and trusted in myself. Yeah. And I knew that last boss I had did me dirty. Yeah. And I knew I never was going to work for anybody else again, unless I hit lotto with selling a business or, growing my company to a place where I'm really comfortable, and then maybe go work for somebody else because, I'm coasting, and it's not my end all be all. But never again would I put my livelihood and my success and any of that in the hands of somebody else, because sometimes you get disappointed, sometimes you get robbed, sometimes you get dumped on your head. And I didn't like that feeling, and I knew I was capable, and I vowed to never do it again. So he made me an offer. It was terrible. I wanted to see it too as just mano a mano. How do you value me, right? What's the dollar amount you assign to me and this company that we've both been plugging into? What do you think this is worth? And he was a frugal guy to begin with, so I really didn't have high hopes, but I needed his number so that I could then counter.
Oh, yeah. So your intent was to buy him out. Yes.
So I did, and I paid him double. Literally double what he offered me. And he took it, and he took it happily. And he went off to get into, now he became a GC. We were already kind of operating as general contractors. So he was now this home improvement guy, but with the sale, he couldn't do rain gutters, right? Yeah. And he thought, oh, well, I don't need to. I'm going to do remodels and additions, and I don't need the rain gutters. That's fine. That's a small part of the big picture. And he flopped. He failed. And I wish it worked for him, but he didn't have the drive. And you guys know, so a lot of you guys know, it's way outside of the box in the beginning of a 9 to 5. Yeah. You got to work like a lunatic for a decade. Some of you guys, I'm impressed. You guys hit it in a few years, and man, God bless you. All the power to you. But for most of us, we have to work like dogs for 10 years for nothing, for peanuts. And then all of a sudden it hits, and it starts to gain traction, and you get a brand recognition, and people know who you are, and the phones really start to pick up. So he went off. He's driving. Now he's a driver for UPS. I see him from time to time on the road. Hey, look, he's got bennies and he's got perks that I don't have. I'm self-employed. I have to pay out of pocket for everything. But, I think he needed that comfort. So that's the background. The very next year, my first 12 months without him, I doubled revenues without him. Figure that out. I was doing all the sales. He was running production. Once I extracted him from the operation, I took over production and continued to do sales. And we did 800,000. So right there, I knew, wow, what did that tell me? I was like, he's been holding me back. He really has been an anchor. What did I miss out on all these years? How much revenue
How
did I
long
leave
were
on
you
the
guys
table?
working together?
About 9.5 years.
Oh, quite a while then. So
Yeah.
when did the purchase of his part of the business happen? Like what year was that?
Bringing me back now to 2011, 2011,
Oh, so
2012.
okay. So
Yeah. So I've been
halfway.
running about a decade alone.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you one thing. Did you guys have an agreement, a shareholders agreement in place, or did you just start the business and you were 50-50?
No, so we had all of that. We had an operating agreement, and we had an attorney draft that I do recommend that people spend the money and have an attorney do it so that it is legally binding and all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Very important part of it. Although I should take my own medicine. I have a business with my wife, which, let's face it, we have children together. She's the majority owner. This is one of my newer companies. And I did not engage one of our attorneys to do the operating agreement. I'm savvy enough on the business side now to create my own. We do have one, but I'm sure I'm giving up a lot of leverage. But if there's one person in this world I'm going to give the leverage up to, it's the mother of my children.
Yeah.
Kind of have no choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all cool. So, would you recommend, I guess, this would be a question that I'll ask you, and I guess it would depend on anyone, but do you regret having a partner in the beginning, or do you think you never would have got to where you were without having him in the beginning?
It's a great question. And I would say, and this is the way I try to look at life, I really have no regrets. I think I think it was a learning lesson. I learned a lot. We needed each other in the beginning. I'll admit to that. I'll cop to that. We needed each other because we didn't know what we didn't know. Now in hindsight, oh yeah, now that I'm, the old sage, the old wise wizard, that knows the business, now it's like, oh, I didn't need him. Well, I did, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know my ass from my elbow as a contractor running a business back then. So we needed each other, but I am disappointed in the sense that if I had broke away earlier, where would I be now? What things would have been done differently, and revenues, growth, branding, all of that. He definitely was holding back on the business spend, and I was the one that was like, put the money on it, let's go.
Yeah. So just keeping an eye on our time here. So you've been doing Connecticut gutters for the best part of 20 years. You bought out your partner about 10 years ago. So you've got a couple other businesses that are kind of, I wouldn't say merge, but they relate to the gutter business, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, my idea, and it's not a new idea, but it's something that I'm subscribing to, is just trying to stay in the same vertical, right? Instead of jumping into like making cupcakes and selling them, out of a small bakery, why don't I stick to something that is complementary services that could leverage the same customer base? And then I really focus specifically on water specifically. So waterproofing, stormwater drainage, roofing. Because if you really have three systems on a house when it comes to water. It's the roof system that sheds the water. It's the gutter system that collects that shedded water and safely conveys it either to the ground or underground. And then if it is underground, you have a stormwater system which collects that water, sends it somewhere, whether it be to daylight or a stormwater chamber. And all of those interplay with one another. So much so that one of my other companies, Connecticut Stormwater Authority, 25% of our business is in satisfying the municipalities locally. The municipalities want these stormwater systems inspected and maintained every 5 years. And they want an engineer that's state licensed to create a report that verifies, yes, the system was inspected. Yes, it is in good shape and it can still remain in service. It doesn't need any work. And on that report, there's a section for rain gutters. So the stormwater enforcement includes rain gutter systems. They want to make sure you're cleaning your rain gutters on your house. So, all of these systems interplay. One of my companies generates leads for the other, and then the other way around. It's a constant. I might get a call for the stormwater system, and then I pick up rain gutter work or I'm there, my estimators are there for rain gutter work, and then they're like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't look right underground. So my recommendation, if you're trying to grow, there's a law of diminishing returns on how much you could scale a rain gutter business, because it's highly dependent on how many houses there are, how many homeowners, and your marketing starts to become less and less effective when you hit a certain number. So how do you continue to grow? Well, take that same customer who you've already retained, instead of going to find some stranger, you already got this guy or this girl, sell them something else, and do it in that water vertical, because they'll assume you are the expert there. You're already doing water. So,
Right.
I mean, that's my 2 cents.
Mm. In your area, I think you mentioned to me before that there's a lot of government regulations around stormwater too, right?
That's correct. In fact, a lot of it's still very cryptic. A lot of it is highly unknown by the homeowner. But in the last 10 years in the town I'm in, they're starting to ratchet up. It's called the MS4 mandate. The EPA drives it. It's a spinoff of the Clean Water Act. And what they're trying to do is control toxins and pollution the EPA is trying to control the towns. The towns in turn have this responsibility to control the residents, the residential element. That is where it's getting tricky, because the towns are enforcing on your private property and telling you need to have these systems in place. And the way they're doing it is building permits. We're not going to issue you this building permit unless you also include the stormwater system, and then sign this declaration while you're at it. And this declaration says, I know what I have. I acknowledge I have this stormwater system, and I promise I'm going to have it inspected every 5 years and maintain and upkeep it so that it's functional. And now the towns are starting to figure out how to grow teeth and enforce these things. It's getting to a point now locally for me where the towns are talking about taking over the maintenance on the residential side, building it into the tax liability per homeowner. So it's in our taxes as owners in town, and the town then will send a crew like mine on the property. And I'll tell you, in my town, some of these systems takes me 2 days to inspect. Could be a $20,000 service, because they have 20 downspouts. They're all lead coated copper. They're all riveted or soldered, and they're tied into the underground drainage system. They have 15 catch basins on the driveway. They're all full of leaves and debris. They have 4 window wells that have drains on them. I mean, it gets crazy. So it's a good market to be in. And we're kind of riding this political nonsense and waiting for the town to grow some really sharp fangs to start enforcing. But they are sending nasty grams and letters. And so we're just sitting there like a catcher with our mitt out, waiting for all that work to come in,
So over the next few years, we'll expect that part of your business to grow.
Oh, it's been tripling year over year. This is with my wife. We're 2.5 years in business, and we did $500,000 last year. I intend to do 1.2 this year. I mean, design build.
She plans on doing 1.2.
She does. I just work here,
Yeah, you're just.
I'm just the hump that gets things done.
Gotcha. Hey, we didn't chat about this, but what do you do in your gutter business? What styles of gutters do you do?
Good question. And so just kind of to cut to the chase, I'll tell you, it's easier to tell you what I don't do. And I don't do 5K. I did for years. I had 3 machines. I sold them all. And I did this about 10 years ago. Once I realized how dirty and slimy and commoditized the 5-inch world is, because let's face it, what is 5-inch gutter? Basically, it's just checking off a box that says, I have some piece of CRAP on the house that catches water and conveys it away. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not interested in something sexy. I just need it. I'm buying it for the functionality. So I try to run my business where it's form and function. I want to sell you something that complements the house and looks good. And you're going to pay for that. So I'm on the higher end of cost, and we want to be a profitable business. around here, there's just too many guys that are uninsured, chucking a truck, has a gutter machine in an old U-Haul that's parked outside with flat tires, and maybe once a week he gets a job and he runs down the street and gets it done, and he's doing it at $4 a foot and yada yada yada. I got to a point where it was a straw that broke the camel's back. That last customer that said, well, I have John down the street and he'll do it for $4.10. I was like, I don't want to ever hear that again. I never want to have that conversation with a homeowner again. I don't compete on price. I compete on quality, and I compete on systems I can install that the next guy can't, because he either doesn't have the know-how, he doesn't have the savvy skill set to do it. And so to answer your question, we do copper of any form and flavor. I wish there was more of it. I find that there's ebbs and flows with copper. Aluminum is a constant. I used to think all I wanted to do was copper. And the guys that I have installing copper for me, that's all they want to do. It is sexy. It is high end. It is rich, right? The materials are expensive and you can charge a lot for the labor. But here's another little secret. You can make money with copper, but you're not going to get rich with copper. You're going to get rich with aluminum. Aluminum is what you could do in high volume, and it's readily available.
Yeah.
And yes, the price keeps going up and up, but I'm more focused on my aluminum than my copper, because again, same thing. There's guys running around that are uninsured, and they're giving away the copper. They're easy to find around here. So I gravitate towards stuff that the other guys can't do. Like, I've sourced really high quality half round gutter. It's Galvalume painted with Kynar 500 paint in all the architecturally available Kynar colors, pack clad metal. It's 040, heavy stuff. My guys hate using it. It's 040, it's a bitch to work with. It's heavy, it's hard to cut.
So that's not aluminum though, is it?
It's Galvalume. It's a blend of aluminum and steel. So It's really, really heavy. Yeah. It's heavy. It doesn't dent easy. It's perfect for me in New England, because although I do see it down in like Florida, it's the stuff they use on like Disney World. Yeah. Institutions, hotels, high-end hotels. You go on vacation, you're like, wow, look at that 8-inch, 10-inch half round gutter. That looks substantial. That's the quality of stuff we bring to the market here. Now I'm getting $35, $40 a foot for it, and everybody else is selling Berger Brothers, but that's the commoditized product, right? The Berger Brothers single bead half round in high gloss white or in musket or royal. It's royal brown. That's the commoditized market. Do I install that? Yeah, a little bit, if I can get the price we want. But otherwise, I just focus on the people that are interested in the quality, and that's the heavy duty stuff. The downspouts are, like 024, 03, 032 actually. They're heavy. They're a pain in the butt. They're tough to crimp. We use a pipe stretcher on a heavy duty drill that, in a pipe expander.
Yeah.
And we make male female because you can't even crimp this stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we do a ton of 6K. I think my bread and butter is actually still 6K. And then we do a box gutter, a seamless box gutter. It's called 5.6X. Englert makes it. 5.6X is a crossover between 5-inch, what we know as 5-inch K-style, and 6-inch K-style, but it's a box profile. And the crossover is the fact that the mouth of the gutter, where the water enters the top, that's 5-inch, but the bottom is the same width as a 6-inch gutter. So some argument is to be said that it's not about the volume of the gutter. It doesn't have to be the biggest trough. It's about how fast you can get that water out.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes down to the downspout, really.
It's all gravity, right? How fast does that water exit the gutter? That's going to keep the gutter from overflowing, not necessarily the size, how big the gutter itself is. So the 5.6X is not giant. So it's some people are very adverse to large gutter. They don't want 6K because they're like, that looks ridiculous on my house. So this looks nice. It's a residential size, but it's got the big bottom. So I could put a 3 3/8 inch pop-in outlet in it and get that water out quick. And then obviously I'm using a 3x4 downspout on it.
Yeah.
We sell a lot of that. It's white labeled. We call it the Connecticut gutter. Why not? We also call it the lifetime gutter. We've branded it a few ways. And we put a lifetime warranty, lifetime, 20 years.
Yeah.
Workmanship, material, good stuff. So I stay away from the stuff everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
That's my silent business
Yeah,
strategy.
it makes sense. I kind of feel the same, but we're still doing 5-inch, but there's a lot, most of the guys are doing 5/6, but we like to focus on our half round and our box cutter too. So,
Sure. Yeah, what do you
okay.
have? You have a box?
I've got a European box,
Nice.
KWM machine.
Do you do a lot with it?
We're doing a lot more. It's a very modern. Do you know the style?
I do, but
Yeah,
you're doing
it's
it
very
residential
modern. It's mostly residential that we're doing with that. Yeah. A lot of these, these modern homes, they just love it.
Yeah,
I'm probably doing more box cutter than I am half round, to be honest with you.
if you could drive it through the architects, you're the man. That's the way to do it, right? You got to get a sample in their office and let them drive it and spec you, and you could sell that stuff all day.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, look, we're kind of running out of time here. I know you, sorry about that. I know you have another business that we're going to be talking about at another
Yes.
on another interview with your partner. So I think
Absolutely.
we're going to probably look at doing that next week or the week after. Or you're away,
Sounds good.
aren't you?
I leave next Friday. I'm away for 2 weeks, but I'll have my laptop. We could put it together.
You're not really on vacation. It's a working vacation.
I'm always working. I'll make sure I put some palm trees behind myself for you guys.
Okay.
Maybe you'll see a little whale jump out in the water.
Yeah. Well, look, Frank, I really appreciate you chatting with me. Hopefully some of the guys watching got something out of this. And you're going to be at Gutter-Con too, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting you in person and having a drink with you. And we'll see you then.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
We'll chat with you next week.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
Okay, you too.
Take it easy.